There is a machine sitting on the flight deck of the USS Tripoli right now that does not fit into any single category of military aircraft. It is not a helicopter. It is not a fixed-wing plane. It takes off vertically, rotates its engines forward in flight, and arrives at a combat zone faster than any helicopter the United States military has ever built. It can land without a runway, carry 24 combat-equipped Marines, and reach a target 400 nautical miles away. It is the MV-22 Osprey, and in the next phase of Operation Epic Fury, it is the one platform that solves the problem every other aircraft in the American inventory cannot. Here is the problem. Kharg Island sits 25 kilometers off Iran's southwestern coastline in the Persian Gulf. It is not a strategic asset. It is the strategic asset. 90% of Iran's entire oil export capacity flows through the terminals on that island. The pipelines, the loading docks, the storage tanks. Strip that infrastructure away and the Tehran regime does not just lose revenue, it loses the economic oxygen that keeps the entire military machine breathing. The Pentagon understands this. That is why, during the precision strikes on March 13th, American planners made a decision that looks strange on the surface. They neutralized every military installation on Kharg Island, the air defense batteries, the IRGC garrison, the underground missile storage, and left the oil terminals completely untouched. That was not restraint. That was preparation. To understand why you need the Osprey specifically, you have to run the geometry of the problem. The 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit is embarked aboard the USS Tripoli, USS New Orleans, and USS San Diego, 2,500 Marines. Their mission? Physically secure the oil infrastructure on Kharg Island before Iran can destroy it. The regime knows what is coming. An island whose economy you just surgically stripped of defenses becomes a target. Iran's remaining IRGC elements on the coastline will try to reinforce, mine the approach waters, or trigger demolition charges on the terminals before American boots arrive. Speed is everything, and this is exactly where conventional amphibious doctrine fails. A traditional marine landing uses LCACs, landing craft air cushion, hovercraft that scream across the water at 50 knots carrying vehicles and troops from ship to shore. They are effective. They are also visible, trackable, and they require a beach. Kharg Island's coastline is bordered by industrial infrastructure, not assault beaches. More critically, the shallow waters approaching the island are precisely the kind of environment Iran has spent 4 decades salting with mines and fast attack boat ambush positions. Sending a column of LCACs through that approach is not a landing plan. It is a targeting solution handed to the enemy. The Osprey changes the geometry entirely. Here is what makes it different. At the moment of transition, when an MV-22 rotates its engine nacelles upward from horizontal to vertical, it converts from an aircraft traveling at 315 knots to a vehicle that can descend vertically onto any flat surface larger than its rotor diameter. No beach required, no water approach, no exposure to the mine channel. The Marines fly over the kill zone and land directly on Kharg's industrial platform. The approach vector is vertical. The exposure window is seconds. Now run the numbers against the threat environment. Iran's surviving coastal defense elements, fast attack boats, shoulder-fired missiles, remaining drone launchers in the mountain positions along the southern coastline are optimized to track and engage surface threats, low, slow targets moving across water. The Osprey's cruise altitude sits above most of that threat envelope. Its approach is from the air, not the sea. The weapon systems designed to kill LCACs and destroyers are not the right tools to kill an aircraft arriving at 315 knots from altitude. But the Osprey's value does not stop at the landing. This is where the engineering becomes decisive. A standard CH-46 Sea Knight, the helicopter the Osprey replaced, has a combat radius of roughly 130 nautical miles. The MV-22 Osprey has a combat radius of 400 nautical miles without refueling. That doubling of reach is not a marginal improvement. It is a categorical shift in how Marine commanders can position their amphibious ships. The USS Tripoli does not need to close to within helicopter range of the Iranian coastline. It can hold at distance, beyond the effective range of Iran's remaining shore-based anti-ship missiles, and still deliver Marines onto Kharg Island in a single flight. The ship stays outside the cage. The Marines go in. The internal payload capacity reinforces this. The MV-22 carries 20,000 pounds of internal cargo or 15,000 pounds on an external sling. That means the initial assault wave does not just carry rifles, it carries the equipment to hold what it takes: communications gear, demolition prevention equipment, enough logistics for the first critical hours before resupply arrives. A helicopter assault typically requires multiple waves to achieve the same effect. The Osprey compresses that timeline. Compression of the timeline is what prevents Iran from triggering the demolition charges on the terminals before the Marines arrive. There is also the mine countermeasure dimension. While LCS platforms are running unmanned sonar systems through the mined channel approaches to Kharg, the Osprey's assault route bypasses that problem entirely. The minefield is a surface and subsurface threat. It has no effect on an aircraft. The months of effort required to sweep the approach waters, work that USS Canberra, USS Tulsa, and USS Santa Barbara are executing right now. Those timelines are strategic considerations for the broader logistics chain. For the initial seizure of Kharg, the Osprey decouples the assault timeline from the mine-clearing timeline. The Marines do not wait for the channel to be cleared, they fly. And there is one more variable that rarely appears in the headlines. The MV-22 carries a .50 caliber GAU-21 machine gun on its rear ramp, and the Block C variants now entering service carry an M240 on a belly-mounted defensive gun system. These are not precision strike weapons. They are suppression platforms designed to keep the aircraft alive during the final approach. Combined with the AC-130J Ghost Rider gunships and AH-1Z Viper attack helicopters that would escort any Kharg assault package, the Osprey arrives inside a protective bubble of fire. Run the equation from the beginning. Iran built Kharg Island's defenses assuming any attack would come from the sea. The U.S. military designed the Osprey assuming future conflicts would not allow conventional approach corridors. Those two design assumptions are now meeting in the Persian Gulf, and only one of them anticipated the other. The Osprey does not break the strait open by itself. What it does is solve the final variable that all the other platforms leave unsolved: how to put boots on the island that controls the strait's economic engine faster than Iran can respond, from an angle Iran cannot cover. The LCS clears the radar net. The Tomahawk destroys the garrison. The B-2 neutralizes the air defense. And then, in the silence left behind, the Osprey arrives, vertically, precisely, at speed, carrying the Marines who will stand on Iran's economic heart and hold it. That is not a helicopter. That is not a plane. That is the answer to a geometry problem 40 years in the making. If you want to understand why machines win wars before the fighting starts, subscribe and stay ahead of what's coming.